All of you who are just joining, we are so excited for you to be here. We have a phenomenal 90 minutes planned with you, and we have a lot of great things in store, but we're going to give folks just a minute or two to join. And while folks are joining, I want to call out for you. We would love it if you would throw in the chat where you're from, where you're joining from, what your business is, if you know what brought you here today. We'd love to hear all that information from you. And then we will kick it off in just a couple minutes. And I also want to call your attention to the screen that you see being shared. These are some amazing business owners who are recipients of the 2021 Black Ambition Prize. So really excited for you to get to know some new businesses. You know, we're all business owners in this room perhaps, but we're also all consumers. So these are businesses we could be supporting. So please do make sure you take some time to take a look at these businesses that we are celebrating and highlighting today. Check out their websites. If any of you who are prize winners are in the chat, go ahead and make sure you drop the link to your website in the chat and a word on how we can support you, because we want to see your business continue to grow. So, okay, hi Praise Jackson, love to see it. Go ahead and throw in the chat where you're joining from. Okay, Elements of Delight, let's check out that website. A lot of good things going on, a lot of good things in store. Can we get a list of these businesses via email? Absolutely, Christine, we can make that happen. Would love to do that with a follow-up email.
I agree. I keep going back and forth with this mute button, but I agree.
Yes, yes. Okay, we have Dewey Rose from Wisconsin. We have Marcelo all the way from Mexico. Okay, hola. Welcome, bienvenidos. Also, wow, it's international. We're global today. We have Sebastian from Chile representing B-Readers, breaders.com. Everyone check that out. Keep throwing in the chat who you are, where you're joining from, how we can support you. Would love to see it. And we'll give just another minute or two as folks join in before we kick it off. But again, really want you to just take a look at some of these amazing businesses that have won the prizes. And you'll also have a great opportunity in a little bit to hear from one of our prize winners as well. We also, okay, another New Yorker, good. There always has to be more than one New Yorker in the room so I can feel comfortable. We have Carl from Envision Travel Group. Thank you, love to see it. So we'll give it just one more minute and then we will kick it off and turn it over. I know many of you might have questions. Hey, Khadijah, we have Khadijah Doso, CEO of Doso Beauty in Philly. So the East Coast is represented. I saw one West Coaster. We also, another New Yorker, LaShawn Sugar Ray Marston, a community builder and activist. Praise is in Atlanta, okay. And I see amazing websites being dropped. You all want to make sure you check out these websites. Dawn Kelly, good to see you. I see we have a lot of business owners in the chat. So we are going to kick it off in just a minute, but if you've just joined again, we want to know who you are, where you're joining from. We are excited. It is Global Entrepreneurship Week, so it's fitting that this is a global room today. We're celebrating entrepreneurship. It is tough to run a business. Let me tell you, I'm sure we all know it is tough to run a business. So it is important that we take time to celebrate each other. If you haven't already acknowledged yourself, acknowledge yourself. I was saying to someone today, the things we do feel so regular to us, but they're really quite extraordinary. And if everyone could do it, everyone would. So you really do have to take those moments to celebrate yourself and acknowledge yourself for where you are and how far you've come in your business journey. It is now 3:05, so I just want to again thank you. We may have more folks joining in throughout the call, but I want to thank everyone who is in the room today and for being with us today. And I want to just let you know again, we're here to celebrate Global Entrepreneurship Week. We're here with Black Ambition, and there's no better way to kick this off than to have Black Ambition share themselves why they created this event today. So with no further ado, I want to turn it over to Christine Joseph, who is leading today and telling us some remarks about Black Ambition.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Angelina, so much. And all of C-Suite Coach for working with us for this, because it was really, really important for us to put together something incredible with value-packed information for Black, Latinx, and everything in between founders. So all together, I hope you all buckle up, get comfortable, have your notepads ready. I have mine. Because I know for sure we're going to walk away today with a lot of really value-packed information, not only because it's Black Ambition and C-Suite coming together, because we are incredible and we're doing great things for incredible founders, but also because Angelina is going to go through some branding information, and then we're going to have some supply chain information. We're going to hear from our founders. It's going to be great. Altogether, a little bit about Black Ambition. It is a nonprofit organization founded by Pharrell Williams, the Pharrell Williams, all to bring unprecedented access and capital to Black, Latinx, and HBCU founders. And so we did our first prize competition it ended in July 2021. And so we awarded 34 prize winners. Grand prize winner is actually in the room. The HBCU grand prize winner was Khadijah Doso of Doso Beauty. Please check them out. And then our grand prize winner was Livegistics, a logistics company. So we awarded $1 million to Livegistics and $250,000 to Khadijah Doso. So all together, I mean, truly a wonderful experience. We provided mentorship, pitch coaching, and everything to kind of prepare everyone for that competition. And then even afterwards, the semi-finalists and all finalists were a part of this community where we continue to provide really great information and access and everything else like this. So if you're interested about learning more about Black Ambition, feel free to reach out to me. We won't be hosting our next prize competition until next year, but we're continuing these types of events and information sessions and bringing, again, unprecedented access to you all, founders who need that, right? So that's that. I'm excited to hear more about what you all are doing and to just keep up with everything else. So yes. That's it.
All right. Thank you so much, Christine. And again, thank you, Black Ambition, for doing this. It is so important that we have opportunities to have free conversations, free trainings. As I mentioned, we're here celebrating Global Entrepreneurship Week. And I am 6 years in running my business, C-Suite Coach. Go ahead and throw in the chat how long you have been in business. I'm very grateful to have two of my team members here with me today. I have to shout out Jacqueline Carter, joining us from Houston, and Kenroy Tyrell, joining us from Brooklyn, New York. And I call out that I'm 6 years in business, and as we celebrate Entrepreneurship Week, one of the things I just like to say is it's never been an easy journey. I find myself constantly a student of the business, constantly having to learn new things, and more than I even probably initially ever would have anticipated. So I do just want to make sure that as you're on this journey, you recognize that you're not alone in it being something that's difficult, and that you do take time to continue to upskill yourself and also celebrate how far you've grown. All right, so 5 years, we have some 5 years in business. I see the Nourish Spot is in here from Jamaica, Queens. Those of you who have just joined, or as you're joining, just do make sure you put in who you are in the chat and where you're joining from so we can shout you out. If you have a website, we all need to go. We all need to visit your business, and that's part of how we will continue to support each other and help each other grow. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about what we're talking about today. And here today, I'm going to spend about 35 minutes with you talking about branding for your business. Okay. And how do you maximize your moment? So to kick it off, I want to just ask you a quick question. If you look at the right-hand side of your screen, there is a triangle, a square, and a circle. And I want you to just go ahead and take the poll and let us know what matters to you more right now. And we'll touch on a little bit of both in this presentation. Okay, I'm seeing business branding is something that's very critical for you, thinking more about how do you brand your business. And one of you thinks quite a lot about personal branding as well. Great. Go ahead and keep filling that out. I'll show everyone the results. We're seeing more concerns about business branding. I am in agreement and in alignment with you. So I'm going to kick it off and share my screen. And let's talk about some of these topics. And today, for the next 30 minutes that I have with you before we move into our fireside chat and remarks from Isfahan, I also want to make sure that we have time to answer some of your questions. So go ahead and get those ready. And I am sharing now. All right, so just to kick it off, I'd like to introduce, if you can all see my screen, who we are and why we're here again today. So C-Suite Coach sources coaches and inclusive professional development content, primarily to Fortune 500 companies who want to support Black, Latinx, and women professionals and business owners. Our mission has always been to advance equity in the workplace and in business. And we do this in 3 key ways. We offer coach staffing services. We source and train and staff qualified coaches, vetted coaches to develop talent who are looking to work on their leadership skills, looking to get to the next level. If any of you are interested in coaching, I saw we have some of our coaches even on the call. Make sure you check out the C-Suite Coach Network. We also do operations for programs, diversity programs, and create leadership development content experiences like you'll have here today. One of the things I'd like to call out is that we are NMSDC certified. We are primarily a business-to-business company. So that being, we make most of our revenue from partnering with other large organizations. We've made the joke that we're the Robin Hood of coaching. We try to find ways to make sure that for Black and Brown communities, our coaching and leadership development experiences are free. So we're primarily working with large organizations. So if any of you are service-based and business to business, I do want you to think about getting certified, getting your business certified, because as we talk about branding your business, that's something else that can differentiate you and make it easier for Fortune 500 and larger companies that have big budgets to work with you. So there's a lot of interest in certification. We've been very fortunate to serve some great organizations. And now I want to kick it off to why we're here today. So this is one of my favorite quotes. And one of the things I love about quotes is you can make it mean anything you want to mean. There's a lot of meanings to this quote for me, but I'm going to bring it to branding. So y'all familiar with Audre Lorde? She says, if I didn't define myself for myself, I would be crunched into other people's fantasies for me and eaten alive. And this quote stands out to me in many different ways, but I'm only going to talk about it in branding, in thinking about branding and how to market yourself and your business right now. And I think about when I had first launched, how I was still building out the clarity for my mission for the business. I was still really developing what my services are. In fact, we continue to pivot. We continue to evolve and shift our services based on market demand, based on where our areas of expertise grow. And what was happening is people had ideas. There's jokes sometimes about how your parents try to introduce what you do and they get it all the way wrong. Well, I felt like that wasn't just my mom, that was everybody. People couldn't really get it because I wasn't clear on how to define what I was doing. And that is money left on the table. That is a missed opportunity, because what would happen would be people would come to me wanting to work with me. They were engaged, they maybe liked an interaction and they wanted to work with me, but the services that they wanted to engage with weren't services that I was offered, right? So complete misalignment, because now I'm spending time responding to requests that don't match. That's a lot of wasted time when I could be attracting opportunities that did match. So the first thing I want you to be thinking about as you think about branding your business, branding yourself in your business, is have you really established clarity for yourself? Because when we're nascent in our business, I saw a couple different years that you all have been in business, and I'll look again in the chat. But as we're defining our strategy for our business, and especially as we're younger in business, there can be a lack of clarity. So to get started, you really want to make sure you have clarity on what it is you're offering. And that makes it easier to communicate with your customers. So if you have, for example, your pitch, your Twitter bio statement, how you define your business, go ahead and throw it in the chat. I want to see how you are defining your business. Do you have that crisp elevator pitch? And I'm looking in the chat. Yes, make sure you're calling out your business so we can call it out. Good, we have some veterans in here, 3 years, 6 years. So here's the pitch right here. Kaneen says, I use humor to heal the racial divide through diversity training and comedy. Very, very clear. 7 years, 13 years. Okay, great. 3.5 years, 1 year. So it's all over the map. Go ahead and just keep putting your pitches, how we should be thinking about your business in the chat. Would love to see it. Define your pitch. Let's see them. Okay, the next thing I want you to do is I want you to give yourself an assessment. And so one of the things that is also going to be helpful for you in this journey is constantly taking a look at where you are. And if you know what they say, if you don't have a way to define your progress, it's hard to know whether or not you're making any. So I want you to think about where you are right now when it comes to thinking about the strength of your brand. What do people know about you? Do they know that you are the go-to source for X? Are you attracting the right opportunities? So when I think about this little matrix of how do I assess my brand, when I look at one is, what is a brand? I never think about it. You know, I'm doing the work. People are going to show up because I'm doing the work. Maybe you're more on that side of the spectrum. But when I think about what a 10 is, people really understand the value of my work. In fact, I'm drawing in so many opportunities. It's time to hire somebody new because people know that I am the source for this. I am the expert at this. There's a clear perception about what I do. So I want you to throw, if you feel comfortable, throw in the chat your number. If you don't worry about it. Just put it down for yourself. And then I want you to take a minute and think about, if I'm not at that 10, what is holding me back from getting there? What's holding me back from getting to that 10? Where has there been a lack of intentionality or a lack of strategy that has not moved me to that 10? Okay, I'm seeing different confidence levels. Thank you all for sharing. We see some 4s, some 10s, and some 9s, some 7s. So we're all, again, across the spectrum. Those of you who are 9s and 10s, I want you to throw in the chat, or maybe when we have Q&A time, if you could come off mute. I'd love to hear the strategies that are working for you. We're a community. And for those of you who are, more at the 4, 6, be critical of yourself in a positive way. What is missing? What can take me to that next level? For some of us, it might be time. That's one thing that I've struggled with in the past. It's when you're working on your product or your service, that's really where most of your energy and focus is. So how do I find the bandwidth as a business owner to take on more? And part of that might mean it may be time to look at outsourcing opportunities. So go ahead and share what it is you think drives you to be at that number in the chat. I'll let you all keep typing away. So I want to connect brand to opportunity for you, okay? When we think about growing our brand and, is marketing worth it? Should I run the Google ads? Should I do the Instagram campaigns, put this thing up on YouTube, do the printouts at an event? We had a big company event in September, and we think about, why do we even host these things, right? The power in doing it, what makes it make sense is when you have a strong brand, you're connecting yourself to more opportunities, okay? And when you develop and prioritize your brand, you're adding value to your company. It's ability for people to know who you are, to see you as the go-to source. It can influence which companies decide to do business with you. When you have dings, we've all made mistakes, right? We're human. If you haven't yet, good for you, but you'll probably make some soon. So then when these things happen, maybe you Twitter fingers one day and you said something wrong that was perceived in a way you didn't like. Having a strong brand can help minimize reputation damage. And it can also be something that either grows or diminishes your client relationships. And so we'll talk more about what are these 3 elements. I pose that there are 3 elements you need to be thinking about when developing a brand, but it's all about opportunity. How do I make sure that I'm attracting opportunities that I need and not missing opportunities that I should be securing? Okay, I'm going to read a couple of your comments and then we'll keep it going. So some of you all, okay, I'm seeing some great pitches that are very, very clear. So I do want to just shout you out for doing the work for clarity in your services. Some of you are saying, you know, you have a friendly scalp and skincare macro relief. That sounds very crisp, very to the point. In terms of the high scores, they're saying, I'm known for my art and activism across the board. Okay. For one of you who had a lower score, you said there was so much word of mouth that I didn't need to have a strong brand. People were hiring me because of me. But as I'm looking, I'm now at a place where it needs to be more dynamic than just me. This comment really resonates because as we look for growth, right? I think about how to grow a business, and there's pretty much no company that doesn't need new customers. Even Apple is always trying to re-engage to get more money from you every year. They're coming out with new devices every year to kind of keep you in their pocket and keep driving that revenue. So as we're looking for growth, we have to make sure that we're expanding our strategies to attract new customers. Okay, this is so great. I'm seeing really positive things. I just want to call out Kaneen. People are thrilled to connect with my brand and mission, quote my key points, engage with me on social, and refer or hire me. That is positive. She's found some advocates and some folks who can amplify the work she's doing. So keep sharing, keep the conversation going, and things that have worked for you. I'm seeing Clubhouse already is working for some of you. Throw those tips in the chat as well. So a strong brand is created with intentionality and purpose. I've used that word already a couple of times. Intentionality, knowing your purpose. As you can see, when we started this presentation, I shared the vision of my company, and I share it every time I'm having a conversation with someone, because having that purpose really does connect people to what it is you're seeking to accomplish. You should be sharing that with your employees, with your contractors, with any of your potential clients. It should be all over your website so people can really understand the purpose that's driving your work, right? So that's the first part. The second part is intentionality, really making some firm, consistent choices about how you're going to show up. So I threw a couple images on the screen. Everyone and everything has a brand. So for example, I always make the joke, when you see any of these things, you think of something, right? You think of something. What do you think of when you see Beyonce, for example? Throw it in the chat. What do you think of when you hear Beyonce? What do you think of when you hear Instagram? Go ahead, put it in the chat. I'll tell you, when I hear Beyonce, I am thinking amazing dancing. I'm thinking concert so good, I will spend my rent money. I'm thinking Queen, Sasha Fierce, top of her game, goals, all of it, women empowerment, and athlete. Yes. She is an underrated athlete, an Olympian, okay? Amazing. But my point that I wanna drive home for you is when something has a brand, you associate value with it. There is a reason why I literally have spent rent money on Beyonce concert tickets. And it is because I know it's gonna be an experience that I'll never forget, that I'll look forward to, that I'll go back and just say, you had to be there, right? To my grandkids one day, right? So that is just an example of what you are seeking to get to. How do I make sure that when your name comes up, and some of you already said it, I love Kaneen's passion. People are thrilled to refer me, right? You want that association with your business, or with you if you are driving a lot of your business. You want, when people hear your name or the name of your company, for them to know that there's some value that's strong that's associated with that. And that can help drive people to get you the right customers. So you're not getting those customers that are like, why does this cost so much? When people see the value, they may be like, I might have to budget in. I might have to shift my budget around and make sure I can afford that. And that's really the place you're seeking to get to. So I want to tell you my little formula, and we'll spend a couple minutes talking about it, and then I'll make sure I leave some room for your questions. But the formula I have is that there are 3 P's that are critical to driving your brand and thinking about your brand so you're maximizing every moment and opportunity you have. So defining your brand, the three P's are profit, perception, and people. And this boils down to, when you think about profit, I want you to think about the value you bring. Some of you laid out that value very clearly in the chats. What is it that I'm doing that's different from what everyone else is doing? Am I clear? That's when we start off. Do I have clarity on what I bring to the table? What is everyone calling me for constantly? When they think of me, also, are they thinking of that value? So that goes to perception. So that's the general impression that I'm presenting to other people. Are they seeing me how I want to be seen? When they think of me, are they thinking of that value? And then you need the people. The network you have in place matters, right? So some of you said people are referring you. It was word of mouth. You're getting these referrals. So how do you make sure that you have the strong network in place to amplify and tell the story of the work you're doing? Because that's some of your marketing effort right there, and saving you some budget if you can get those loyal advocates, fans, sponsors of your business. So as we define the three P's, there are a couple questions I want you to raise for yourself and ask for yourself. What are the knowledge, what skills, resources, abilities set me apart? Some of you have product-based businesses, and you mentioned, for example, having things that are gentle on the scalp. I saw that. Some of you mentioned your activism. So what do I do that really makes me differentiated in my space? What's my competitive advantage? What is it that drives the value that makes people want to pay the price that I'm charging for my services, right? Or for my products? And what are the perceptions people have when they're thinking about my products, my services, me? What are they thinking about? Does it align with where I want it to be? And then how am I relating to people? What is my strategy for engaging with my audience, with my colleagues, with my friends, with anyone who could be an advocate for my business? So understanding those three P's, this is your homework assignment. If you're going to take a screenshot of anything, I always say, take a screenshot of this, because answering some of these questions is going to give you the strategy you want. So then you have to tie that in with your personal mission. How do you make sure that your purpose, your mission shows up in how you do things? I always like to say people don't buy from just businesses anymore. They like to buy from people. I look at, for example, even Google launching a Black-owned and Latinx-owned trait on Google Maps. So when you're searching for the kinds of businesses that you want to purchase from, people care to know, is it veteran-led? Is it woman-owned? Is it Black-owned? Is it Latinx-owned? I like to know where my money is going. And then there are other things that matter to consumers right now. Does it prioritize sustainability? Is it eco-friendly? So if you have something that might matter to your customers, you want to share that and lean forward with that, because people care. They're also purpose-driven. You're consumer. So they want to know who you are when they're doing business with you and what your business truly represents. And then you use all of these answers to these questions to come up with a brand positioning statement, kind of like your mission, but really focus on how you're going to make sure your brand shows up. And I like to use this as a rubric for making decisions, right? So does this align with my brand? Here's now, I have a lot of different things as a business owner, right? I have my overall strategy. We have financial goals. We have mission statements, vision statements. But when I'm thinking about where we show up, where do you see the brand C-suite coach? There's checkpoints now that we just go through. Does it do anything to support women? Does it do anything to support Black business owners or Black employees at work, right? Part of our rubric for how we show up is really tied to this brand positioning statement. So this can also help you if you're struggling with capacity issues or efficiencies. This can help you make better decisions about how you show up. All right, so I'm going to get to a couple tactics, and then I'm going to make sure we have time for questions. But some things you can do is you can look at when you're thinking about the profitability factor, right? How do you show up and make sure that the value, you are in tune with the value that you bring? Look at what you're constantly praised for. Are you taking reviews anywhere? Are you gathering reviews on your site? Are you asking clients for feedback after they've made a purchase with you, or are you doing any sort of exit surveys if you're a service-based business? Can you get any quotes from anyone who's worked with you? And then try to look at themes. What are they consistently praising you for? What are they saying? Not just what you think you're good at, but what is everyone else coming back and doing business with you for? What is it that they love? Because that can also really tie into some other business decisions. If you're spending X amount of dollars on the packaging, but that's the thing that every customer is saying makes them want to come back to you every time, that might be a line item that you just have to keep in your budget. So there's a lot happening that you can learn through really taking time to look at what people are praising you for. You also want to ask for informal feedback. So those early customers you have, if you have mentors, advisors in your circle, you want to make sure you're engaging on a regular basis to really understand where they see the strengths and where they see the opportunities. You can do formal feedback processes. You can send out a free survey to your customers using Google Forms. And there's a lot of assessments you can also take personally as a leader to understand areas of opportunity, deepen your self-awareness. The one thing I'll just say here, for those of you who are on the call who are CEOs, as the owner of your business, you do have to be just very intentional about where you're spending your time. So if, for example, you are not the greatest business development person, but you're very technical, you want to make sure that the majority of your time is spent on those technical components. So better understanding yourself not only helps your brand strategy, but it also helps you figure out who your next hire might be. You might need someone to take off the work off your plate that you really shouldn't be doing because that's not your area of expertise. So it's important to think about your leadership as you're defining your brand as well. So I also just want to call out to, profitability factor. When you logging what you're doing constantly, and this was an article that one of my great friends, Minda Hart, she has a book out, make sure you all go buy it right within. But she had an article out where she talked about the shift that's happening right now in employee resource groups, right? And how right now there's a trend to make sure that employees are being monetized. If you don't know what an employee resource group is, it's within a large company. They're basically affinity groups where they create programming to develop employees that fit within that affinity. And for a long time, this was additional labor that employees were doing. And now there's a trend to recognize that that adds value to companies. And Twitter, I believe, was first. I think LinkedIn was second. Companies are now starting to pay employees additional compensation for taking part in employee resource groups if it doesn't fall in line with their day-to-day job. So why this is so powerful and why I want to call this out was because a lot of times there are things that you might be doing to deliver value that are adding value back to your clients. If you're a service-based business, then this is a big learning for me that you need to make sure you're charging for. So everything that you're doing that adds value, there might also be, as you get clearer on the value you're bringing and you're asking for that feedback, you're getting those conversations, those praise from your customers, you also want to make sure that you're getting properly compensated for the value that you're driving. So that's why I want to call that out. So the next piece that I want to talk about, this is my favorite piece, to talk about perception, is getting clearer on the perceptions your customers have of you. I won't spend too much time on this slide, but I do want to just introduce this framework to you if you haven't seen it or experienced it already. It's called the Johari window. And basically there's the parts that we know really well and others know about us. That's all out in the open. So that first quadrant on the top is called the arena. Then there's these parts that we don't know about ourselves, but other people can see it. That's called a blind spot. So I just want to stick here for a minute. Now, the parts that there might be some things about your business. We talk about value that you just know we kill it here. We overdo it here. We're exceeding expectations here. But then again, that's where it goes back to reading reviews from your customers. There are things that you might be doing really well or reasons why your customers love coming in your store. You might have Sarah who's giving everybody, I don't know, a reading when they come in and they're like, we got to come back for Sarah every time, right? I don't know what it is, but there's something that you may not know about that you're doing really well, that's driving customers. And that's where that process of collecting feedback becomes really important. Also, want to call out, you can use tools like, for example, a Google Analytics or the Facebook Pixel to learn more about your audience, because sometimes we also have ideas based off when we started our business on who our target customers would be. But then when we look at the data, we might see that we were really off, or even slightly off, but it still makes a difference from who we thought was our target customer to who's actually engaging with us. And that can cause, again, a to-do item, an action item for us as business owners to shift our strategy. So you want to make sure you're paying attention to that. And then I'll just call out this one other piece. There's the pieces that you know you're really good at, but you haven't shown your customers yet, or you have other people outside of you don't know. That's the facade. I want you to kind of dig deep and say, why haven't I shown those pieces yet? Is this something that could be driving more value for me? Could I be monetizing these other pieces that I haven't shown yet? So now I always love to get into a couple of tactics. So I'm going to share with you just a few, and let me see, the chat is blowing up. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to read it. Please get your questions together and keep putting in the chat. Shout out to Minda. Y'all love Mindy. That's everybody's girl. Keep getting your questions together in the chat. I'll take questions in just a couple minutes. But here are some free tactics that I use. So I will tell you, in 6 years of business, I have had over 300 press mentions with no publicist. I've been in CNBC at least once or twice every month this year, in print. I can just go on and on about some of the free press that I've received throughout the years. And none of that was done with the publicist. I've never paid for one. I think about it sometimes, but we just have a lot of competing priorities sometimes as business owners. And I will call it out that press has been a game changer for my business because it has driven opportunities. Me really being very diligent about how my company and myself is presented in the media has driven the right clients to me. Folks have reached out because of something they've seen in an article, and it's helped us grow our business. So remember, everything you're doing when you're prioritizing your brand, it should be about the bottom line and a dollar value to it. But the first resource that I use is called helpareporterout.com. Hopefully you all have heard of it. If you hadn't, yes, I'm seeing a lot of y'all were in the press. Love to see it. If you haven't already used it, I would go ahead and sign up. And I will tell you a couple tips because there are a lot that come through there. What it is basically is a source where journalists are looking for expert advice from folks who have an area of expertise. So they may want to talk to restaurateurs in New York about how the pandemic has affected their business. And they have to put out, as a journalist, so many articles every day. They can't just go around searching for sources. So they use this as a platform to engage with people. Some of y'all say bomb service. So what I will say is it does take time to read through the queries. If you can outsource it, this would be a great job to give to a marketing person on your team, or even if you have a cousin, a friend, because it does take time to go through it. So, but when you are consistent, and now I'm going to tell you, okay, great, you're in Harrow, build relationships with the journalists. So this kind of goes to our next point. When I'll talk about people in just a second before we start to wrap up this section of the program. But Minda just joined. I see it. Minda, you gotta hear everybody was just singing your praises in the chat. But so the next thing is, okay, you get the press. Now that you get the press, how you make it consistent and how you build relationships so you get repeated asks. I mentioned I've been in CNBC at least once or twice every month this year. You have to have relationships. You have to use your EQ to build relationships with people, right? So that is, thank you for citing me. Now I'm going to post it. I'm going to tag you. I'm going to share you. I'm going to engage with you on social, build those relationships. And then they keep coming back to you. and other opportunities come. It went from at first me just getting some of these press features to then some of the journalists asking me to moderate panels, to host different things, and paying for my expertise in that area, right? So as you do this, you want to make sure, as busy as you are, you do those simple things like say thank you, like tag the journalist. And then I also have to call this out. We had a moment about a week or two ago where one of my employees, staff on my team, sent out a tweet that went viral, and it got to 60,000 plus likes, where she talked about the work we do in our program. And one of the programs that we run essentially got thousands of additional registrations. It caused a registration lift in our program. So I also want, when we talk about relationships and perception, I also just want you to think about your relationships with your staff, with your team, with the people who are close to you, and how you build those relationships. And when you're driving with your mission and you get people around you excited about your purpose, about the mission of your business, you start to develop. This wasn't something we planned. I didn't even know she was going to tweet it. It was crazy. It blew up. We were so excited about it. But it was organic. And you can have those organic moments when you buy people into the clear vision, purpose, mission you have for your business. So this is why this is really critical. And I also, again, having those viral moments really is great, but what really matters is impact to the bottom line. And for us, we saw immediate registration lift through this. Okay. Almost done. Oh, so here's just some tweets about people saying, we're signing up right away. The other thing is, when we talk about defining your story, when you start to get a lot of those press clippings, you want to start to compile them everywhere. Find a place, whether it's your personal website, your business website, your LinkedIn page. You want to start to put them all in a space where people can easily access them and find them, so that, again, you're now creating the narrative you want to be seen about your business, right? And so one thing that I've done is, for a lot of the bigger press clippings I've had, I will take screenshots of the article. If it's print, I'll actually scan the print article and post it to social media, post it on my website, put it in newsletters to amplify the impact. So now, because the people who read might see it. They may see it in Apple News, but the people who are already engaging with our business, they need to know that as well. So you need to develop that relationship with your customers and find a way to amplify the press that you are receiving about your business. So I know we have a couple of the Black Ambition Prize winners on the chat. That's an amazing moment. And so I want you all to be thinking about, have I really told this story to everyone in my circle? What are some of the creative things I can do to amplify the reach of this moment that I've had, so more people can see some of the wins that my business is having? All right, we have about 2 more minutes of slides, and then we will get to some other presentations. I'm almost done, and I want to hear your questions in the chat, but I'll just skip through this part really quickly. I talked about the importance of people. So the last P, remember, what are our P's so far? We got profit, we got perception, now we got people. Your relationships matter, okay? So how you build your relationships is really important. I just called it out. You need to be providing updates to your network. This is so critical, because year 1 of me starting a business, like, I'll keep it a buck with you, I didn't really have clients like that. I had a couple, I was doing okay, but and it made me, as a leader and as a business owner, feel insecure. And so I did not want to always talk about what my business was doing, because I wasn't ready for the questions. I didn't feel strong about it. And I had to, people were always, when you're a business owner, it's the most exciting thing in the world to everyone who's not. And it's all everyone wanted to talk about. I had to get really good at making sure that I was telling people about the work that I was doing, and telling people about my business, so that they could advocate for me, so that they could do exactly what I needed them to do in terms of showing up and sharing the story of my business. So you need to make sure that wherever you are, that you're sharing updates, You're also being a connector. If you're not the right service provider or product business for that particular entity, you need to go ahead and make sure that you're connecting them with another resource. Network with other business owners, like we're seeing in the chats. Yes, we're keeping it a buck on this call. Yes, we are. Okay, here's another one you can screenshot because I don't want to spend too much time here, and we'll send out the recording as well. But also take a moment to think about how you're building relationships in a couple of the key categories that matter to you. Everything. So what did we say when we talked about brand? It requires two things. You're really clear on your purpose, and you're also very intentional. So it may seem crazy, but sit out there, get out your pen and paper, and you need to look like, what are my relationships like with my peers and colleagues? What are my relationships like with my staff, with my employees, contractors, whatever? What about my clients? What about external stakeholders? And you really need to map out who you need to build relationships with. So the way we do it, our framework at C-Suite Coach, we red light, yellow light, green light. Your green relationships are the ones that are so strong that if you picked up the phone and sent a text like I did, to get one of our speakers on this call, I'm really excited about, you just know that they're going to go, they're supportive. Y'all have going to support each other no matter what. Your yellow relationships are more in the, I need to keep building. They might pick up, they might do it for me, they may not. And your red relationships is, they may probably not respond to my text. So I really need to I need to do something to build that because I want that relationship. So in every category that I lay out here, I want you to think about relationships in each sphere. And what are your red relationships with your peers? What are your green relationships with your peers? What are your yellow relationships? Then I want you to ask yourself a question. What am I going to do to nurture those green relationships? Because just because I can pick up the phone and call you and ask for a favor today doesn't mean it's going to be the same way tomorrow. Y'all know yesterday's price is not today's price, right? So your friends might hit you with that if you haven't spoken to them in months, if you haven't followed up, if you haven't shared updates, you can lose that relationship. So you want to make sure you're continuing to nurture that. And with your yellow relationships, what are you doing to move it to green? What's one thing you could do? What's an opportunity you could share? And you could say, hey, I heard about this Black Ambition call. I want to share Black Ambition as a resource with you, right? So that's something that you can do to move it to the next level. Okay, this is going to be my last slide that I'll share just because I want to make sure we have time for our other speakers. So the last thing I will say is once you do all of that work, so it's work, it's tactics. I bet you thought you would get on this call and I would tell you post on Twitter 8 times a day at 5 p.m. Post on Instagram 4 times a day at 6 p.m. No, right? What really is going to move the needle on your brand is a strategy that fits you and your business, but it does require intentionality. It requires an understanding of your purpose and your 3 Ps. And then when you put all that together, you'll have your brand positioning statement that can be that rubric for how you define what you're going to engage with your brand. Okay, you may not be able to see all our faces and reactions, but this information is great and valuable. Yes, I'm so excited to hear it. I said that was the last slide. I lied. I have like so many more, but that just means we'll have to have more conversations with you in the future because we have a heavy agenda today. But the last thing I will say, in every introduction you have with someone, this is my favorite line. If I leave you with nothing else, you want to make it a goal to be remembered. So if you're remembered, what are they remembering you for? What are they going to know about you? And once you are clear on your purpose, it shows up in how you present yourself. Don't be shy. Don't be like I was 6 years ago when I wasn't clear yet, right? I want you to be confident. I want you to be clear on your pitch and share that in everything that you do so that when people are engaging with you as the founder, as the CEO of your business, that they're remembering you and what you're doing and that you become the person they think of when they're thinking of that next opportunity. So I want to just take a beat, pause there. I'm exactly at time. And I will look at the chat. If you have questions, go ahead and put it in the chat. I'll answer some questions after, but right now I want to turn it over. I stopped sharing my screen. I want to turn it over. I hope this was helpful to you, and we have so much more to talk about today. I want to turn it over to one of the amazing Black Ambition Prize winners, Dr. Isfahan, to talk about her experience with Black Ambition.
I'm sorry, guys. Hi, how are you doing? I'm Isfahan. I'm the founder and creator of Alodia. So yeah, this has been an amazing year. I'm so very honored to be one of the winners of the inaugural class of Black Ambition. Black Ambition has played an instrumental role in just scaling my company Alodia to the next level. Before I get into how they've played such a instrumental role, I did want to tell you a little bit about Alodia and our journey. Alodia is a science-based hair and scalp care product brand. And our biggest differentiator is the fact that we're expertly created. So I'm a PhD level scientist and trichologist, which is the study of hair and scalp. And my co-founder is an MD physician. And we've utilized our expertise to create products that not only help with hair care styling, but they also help to relieve chronic scalp conditions such as flaking and irritation and stunted growth. So this is what we've really been able to focus on in the past 4 years since our launch in 2017. And we've been able to methodically build a very successful brand, 100% bootstrapped without any funding. So we're using all of our revenue, putting it right back into the brand, just being really scrappy. So in December of 2020 was when I decided, I said, we're exclusively selling on e-commerce. Let's take our chances and dip our toes into the retail market. So we decided to get on that retail journey. And I say it's a journey because it really is an arduous journey trying to get into US retail. And just fast forward, we started in December of 2020, mid 2021, we got the call or the email that we were awarded stores in a US retailer. I can't really say the US retailer because, they have restrictions, but it's a big US retailer. So at that time, I was, of course, so excited, to get into retail. It's extremely hard to do. But then I realized, where are we going to get the money for the inventory? Because they ask for large amounts of inventory for your first PO. Thank you so much. I see people saying congrats. So, of course, that panic set in, but I was just and this is where Black Ambition played such an instrumental role in just scaling us to the next level. The funding, we were one of the top earners or top winners for Black Ambition. So we were able to put those resources into our product and create a large amount of inventory so that we are now comfortably sitting on a large amount of inventory that will go to the US retailer. And we're also able to continue to scale our e-commerce side of the business because we don't want that to fail as well. Just getting into retail, that can sometimes happen. In addition to that, we're launching internationally in a South African retailer and in 5 Southern African countries. And it's all because of, in part, getting the funding from Black Ambition. So I'm just extremely grateful to this fund just for helping us with scaling. And then, something I think that sets Black Ambition apart is the fact that, okay, you're getting this funding, but you also get the mentorship and the advisement that I think is unmatched. When we were in the final round, we received actual pitch coaching. Like John Guyton, who was the pitch coach, he got on with us. I would say he spent about 9 hours with me, just going through my pitch, revising the pitch. I've never had that before, just coming from just being a scrappy entrepreneur, trying to establish a network. We really don't have those resources. So to have a pitch coach such as John Guyton just continuously helping us, as well as Lee Croy with creating the pitch deck. Now that we're in this stage of our business where we're realizing that bootstrapping is just not going to do it, we have to seek investment. Having that pitch deck as well as just the pitch in general, saying it in a very concise and compelling way through the training that we've had, I can't even say how important that is. It's as important as getting the funding. So yeah, just in a nutshell, Black Ambition has played such an amazing role in our business. And if you are thinking about applying, I would say please do. And if you have any questions, if you have anything, you can feel free to reach out to me. Hopefully, my information is in the chat, my website, as well as my email address. And yeah, I'm here to help. And as well as just product businesses in general, if you're looking to get into retail, I can help you with that as well. So yeah, so that's my experiences. So I'll pass it back to Angelina.
Wow, thank you so much, Dr. Isfahan. First of all, I have to tell you, you are blowing up the chat. Everyone is saying congratulations, you go. When is Pharrell gonna get in a hair product collab with you?
That's what I'm saying.
Retail is a challenge, keep winning.
Thank you.
And yes, so grateful for that. I saw one of you mention having a trouble hearing. I neglected to mention you can turn on closed captioning at any time if you would like. I'm so sorry I did not say that earlier, and we'll make sure that we have captions on the recording when it goes out. It should be the button in the middle of your screen next to your camera. There is a button that has a square that has CC in it, and then you can have captions for the whole conversation. Thank you all so much. And, Dr. Isfahan, I think one of the things that you said that was so powerful was just talking about being really clear on your pitch and having that ready. So really aligning to everything that I was saying today. So thank you again. If you all have questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat. We are going to now shift gears completely. This is like all kinds of masterclass for you all here today, and I'm so excited. We're going to shift gears completely, and I know so many of you are excited because when you're throwing in the chat the kinds of businesses you have, I saw a lot of product-based businesses as well. And there are some struggles that are happening right now in the supply chain, and we have another founder with us who's going to be chatting about his experience growing his business over the last 11 months with that. So really, really honored to bring to the stage Lanny Smith, who is the founder of Actively Black, a Black-owned entity. He's a former professional basketball player, and he saw a void in representation and investment back into communities whose culture creates the cool factors for giant brands. So he created a premium athleisure and sports apparel brand designed by us for us. I will tell you, I wear Actively Black when I work out. It's great. I love it. And it's mission-based brand to reinvest back into our communities, as well as improve the mental health and physical fitness of the Black community. So Lanny, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Angelina.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Just to kick it off, I know we're going to talk about supply chain today, but we're coming off a presentation where we were chatting with the founders about the power of brand and really being clear on your pitch and your purpose. What would you say is your purpose for Actively Black or within yourself as a founder?
Yeah, so Actively Black is the second brand that I've launched. The first one is called Active Faith Sports, which I launched back in 2012. And for both of those brands, they were very personal and mission based in the inspiration for starting them. And directly related to what you were saying, there's a clear mission and message attached to both of those brands. For Active Faith, it's a faith-based sports apparel brand, and for Actively Black, obviously the purpose and the mission and the message is to uplift the Black community and to reinvest back into the Black community. So having that brand voice where when somebody interacts or experiences your brand, for them to have a clear vision of what you're trying to convey, what you're trying to do, what you're selling, is so super very important.
And that strength of brand is probably why you've had such immense success in the last 11 months. Is there anything you can share about the growth of your business during this time?
Yeah. So I launched Actively Black on Black Friday 2020. So November 27th, 2020. We hit the first 100,000 in sales in the first 2 weeks. Hit the first $1 million in revenue in the first 6 months, which really was the first 3 months because there was 3 months where I was completely sold out of inventory. But it's been an incredible journey so far. From the moment we launched, all the way through to today, the tribe that's being built, the community that's being built has really galvanized around this brand. And that's led to some explosive growth that's happened here early on.
Explosive for sure. Earlier in my presentation, I talked about these 3 P's that we should be thinking about when we're thinking about our brand. And we talked about the value you're bringing. Clearly, it's a premium product. We also talked about the perception that people have of the brand. And then the last P was people. Can you talk a little bit about some of the people in your network that have helped drive this success with you?
Yeah, I mean, everything from behind the scenes network. I have close friends who have worked at Nike, Adidas, Under Armour that I've been able to kind of gain some insight to the inner workings of some of these brands that I'm trying to apply to Actively Black. And then forward facing from Steph Curry, who's a friend and business partner of mine, seeing him supporting it. It's helped so much with the visibility of the brand, right? And then there's so many things that I'm still learning on the fly. So those friends that are working at your Nike, your Adidas, your Under Armour, being able to pick up the phone and ask them questions about next steps and decisions that I'm making, whether it's on a product development side, whether it's on a manufacturing side, those relationships are invaluable, really. I mean, I can't put a price tag on what those relationships have meant for me on this journey.
Wow, thank you. And you're getting a lot of love in the chat. Great work, King. Congratulations. Yes, Lanny, 1 million in 6 months. So if you want to be like Lanny and have 1 million in 6 months, listen to the 3 Ps. He done hit on all of them that he's using in his strategy. I want to shift gears a little bit because you mentioned inventory and being sold out for 3 months, right? And that's part of why we wanted to talk to you and tap into some of your expertise and some of your challenges that you're facing right now on a supply chain standpoint. So can you talk a little bit about what that period was like and maybe some best practices you have used within your company to be transparent with your customers about expected lead times?
Yeah. So, one of the things with my product is I'm not buying blanks and having them printed on or embroidered or anything. Everything I'm doing is cut and sew from scratch. All of my suppliers are overseas, so it does present a different difficulty in that product cycle. So it takes 30 days just to make my inventory. So these are things that I have to try to keep in mind as things are selling through, trying to implement as much tech on the back end of it. If anybody's doing e-commerce, if you're not on Shopify, make sure you're using Shopify, because the tools on the back end of Shopify, I haven't seen anything to match that. But I've been able to use some of those tools to help with my forecasting for the inventory. But because I'm so early on with this new brand, it's hard to measure some of that explosive growth that's happened, right? And so what I have found to be the best to work with my customers is getting out in front of it, being transparent, being open with them, letting them know, hey, we're just starting out. We're in the process of growing and expanding our inventory, so be patient with us while we build up that part of the business. Especially when you have customers who are super excited about your product and they come to the website and they're disappointed because they can't find anything in stock. We get those emails and those messages, and we try to make sure that we communicate with them and let them know, hey, we are a small company. We just started. We're experiencing these growing pains in real time. And I find that being transparent, being open and honest with them, and letting them know where you are, what stage of the business you're in, it helps. Your customers, they trust you. They feel like they can get a chance to get to know you, and then they give you a little more grace with being able to grow with you and having the patience to wait until you are restocked. I make sure that I have certain things installed on my website that automatically give people alerts when things are back in stock, because being out of stock is dangerous from a standpoint of you can lose a lot of potential business. People come into your website and they're excited and they want to buy something and then it's not available. There's oftentimes they may not come back. So having the functionality where they can put in their phone number or their email address to be alerted as soon as something is back in stock helps out a lot, because if they don't organically come back to your website, as soon as it's restocked, they get that text message, they get that email that lets them know to come back. So I've tried to implement some of those practices. And, honestly, with this is such a cash intensive and such a heavy inventory intensive thing that I'm in. And so this is part of that growing pain of being the startup. I was shipping stuff out of my own place. I had the inventory in my house. I'm dropping it off at the post office, to then transitioning into having a warehouse that is now picking, packing, and fulfilling, all of my orders. These are all just these steps in that maturation of the brand. So I would just say being transparent with your customer base, with your audience, letting them know where you are, letting them know the next steps of where you're trying to go really helps in this type of situation.
Yeah, that's really powerful. And Technicolor Studio says he's also run out of stock before, and it's with pre-sold items, and transparency is really valuable. Just the geek in me has to know these features that automate the conversation with your customers. Were they add-ons you had to buy? Did you custom design it? Or what website service are you using to do this?
Yeah, that's the power of Shopify, that Shopify platform. Because they have an open source app store that's attached to their platform. There's so many developers that are creating programs and apps that you can add on to your site to give you that added functionality. And so that I utilize that daily. There's so many things that I've been able to add on to my site on the back end to help with these things that I didn't have to go hire a developer for, to create some custom programming to do that. So that's why Shopify is not paying me to do this. I wish they were, but I always encourage people that are doing anything in the direct to consumer space, e-commerce, to utilize the power of the Shopify platform.
Yeah, we're going to have to find a way to get you that Shopify check. Everyone is saying yes to Shopify as well. One quick question from the audience, and then I'll go back to mine. Was why are you doing it this way? Why are you building everything custom as opposed to the quality of product from white label companies?
The key word there is quality. Angelina, you've had an opportunity to experience the product in person, to wear it. When I tell people I'm building the Black version of Nike, when I tell them my product can stand next to Lululemon, many times I get, people will laugh, they'll doubt, they'll scoff, but then when they touch and they feel it, when they put it on, that conversation completely changes, right? And that type of quality is not something that I have found from any white label service. I spent 9 months just sourcing materials and manufacturing back when I started Active Faith. That's one thing that a lot of people don't see. They see the end result, they see the end product, but they don't know what all it took to get to that point. It took 9 months of going through hundreds of factories, getting hundreds of pieces of fabric swatches, just to figure out, okay, who's going to be able to produce the type of quality that I want my brand to reflect, right? And many of the white label services can't match that quality. I mean, it's funny that you mentioned white label, because I now get contacted from whether it's celebrities, influencers, other people trying to start brands who want me to white label their product because they can't find quality that matches what I'm producing. So that's the cost of providing something at this level of quality, is you've got to go that route. There's no shortcut to this. So
wow, yes, what a compelling story. And look at that. So just a quick follow-up question there. Did you have to ever physically go to China, or was this all stuff that was shipped to you?
Being a former professional basketball player, I was blessed to be able to be invited to the NBA Asia Tour in 2008. So we played in the Philippines, Korea, and we played in China, and we were actually taken on a tour of one of these factories, and I happened to befriend the tour guide, and we exchanged like Facebook information at the time, I think it was, and connected on Facebook. So years later, as I was getting ready to start this company, and I knew I wanted that custom manufacturing for my product, I actually reached out to him. And because we had that previous relationship that we formed, he kind of helped me at least navigate the initial conversations with some of the different factories. But for the most part, I've been able to navigate this all remotely. So in that beginning where it took the 7 to 9 months, I was having them send me fabric swatches every week to my house. Even now, I'm on Skype meetings and with my manufacturers every night. So technology has, while it just failed me here, it has definitely been something that's helped run this business remotely without having to actually be in China. So.
Yes. Oh my goodness. The power of relationships, right? So that people aspect, as soon as you have just the seed of your idea in your business, it is important to start networking. I always say sometimes we're told, real G's move in silence. You're not supposed to tell people about your vision and your dream. But that's the opposite of an abundance mentality. If people do not know what your dream is, they can't help you. So yes, use discernment, but you also need to build those relationships. And I have to call out in the chat the networking piece from Ashley Mincy, who you mentioned Steph Curry is one of your business partners. I see some Davidson people in the chat, befriended the tour guide. Awesome. So you talked a little bit about how you've communicated to your customers about supply chain shortages. Tell me a little bit about your work with your vendors and how do you engage with them to make sure they're actually being transparent with you as well?
Well, first and foremost, if you're going to do any business with a Chinese vendor, try to take some time to learn the culture, because culture is so very important to them. Respect is so very important to them. So me just learning how to say ni hao or xie xie, to be able to say thank you in Chinese, they respected the fact that I just took the time just to learn how to say hello and thank you in their language, and it broke down some walls there, because there's definitely some walls that you need to break through to gain their trust, and vice versa. But really having to stay in constant communication with them. I'm online with them every single night, getting updates, checking in, asking for pictures and videos of the product and the production line, and making sure everything is on schedule. That's so imperative. When you're dealing with this global supply chain thing, the communication is key. Yeah, I'm sorry, I might have lost what your question was.
Yeah, just making sure they're transparent about the lead time. So it sounds like building that relationship and having a constant feedback loop is really important.
And add in some padding time for yourself. So if they tell you 30 days, anticipate 45 days. You know what I mean? Just so that you're not caught with trying to have certain things by a certain date and it doesn't happen by that time. So definitely pad in time. Also, the other thing that you have to account for that isn't under their control is customs. So when you're bringing things into the country, there's times where the customs agents may pull your shipment aside to inspect it, and there's no timetable on rushing Uncle Sam and the government. You know what I mean? So that's always something to look out for. Now, you can hire a logistics company, a freight forwarding company that can help navigate all the paperwork and everything ahead of time to give you the best chance of getting your product in as quickly as possible. But those are definitely things that you have to keep in mind if you're dealing with international business for your inventory.
Got it. And on that note, one of the questions that came from the chat was around picking fulfillment vendors to work with after you got to the stage that you're at. So,
Yeah.
and it seemed like it happened very quickly from you, that you went from operating your apartments to now needing warehouses and fulfillment centers. If you could talk a little bit about how you chose who you worked with for there and when you knew it was time.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, if I'm going to be completely transparent, that is something that's a pain point to this day. I've probably, with my other brand, I've probably been through at least 6 different third-party logistic companies, warehouses. Finding the right partner that is going to care for your product in the same way that you do is a challenge. Whether it's the way they're packing the stuff, I'm very particular about the customer journey and the customer experience. So the way my customers receive the product is something that's very important to me. So I had one warehouse, they were just throwing stuff in boxes and throwing stuff in, and I that didn't sit well with me. Also, just we live in the Amazon era, right? So people are used to ordering their stuff and getting it in 24 hours or 48 hours, and unfortunately for most 3PLs, they don't have the same resources that an Amazon has. So even just being able to, that's something else that you got to communicate with your customers to set that level of expectation. I would say everybody's point when it's time to move to a warehouse or to a 3PL is going to be different. And it also kind of depends on your goals. So there are some brands that I know that kept that in-house. So what they did was they rented out some space and hired internally for those positions to fill those orders. And if you're in a position of controlled growth, I think that's the best way to go, because you can just keep so many things in-house that you can have control over. For me, things were scaling so fast that I didn't have the time to go find a location, try to find people to hire to do the fulfillment, train them. So having some of these third-party logistical companies who have that service completely built in, that's what I needed, so that there wasn't this long lag time in between transitioning from filling orders out of my apartment to getting into the warehouse. I was able to transfer that inventory, start having an inventory shipped directly from my manufacturer to the warehouse, and they've already got the built-in systems in place, the staffing in place to be able to do that. So it's outsourced, and it takes a huge headache off of my plate of having to worry about filling orders every day. And it's something that's been extremely helpful in helping me scale, because if you can't fulfill on time, if you can't fulfill and handle the volume, it's going to hurt your business. So, but I would tell everybody, start out with the grind, with that personal grind, fill those orders yourself, take them to the post office yourself. That part of the journey is so important. So I would say start there. Once your volume hits a point where the cost to go into order fulfillment, the cost to go into a 3PL is not something that's going to strangle you, and then I would encourage you to make that step.
Yes. And what I love hearing you talk about is that transparency you have with customers in this Amazon era. People always want things done yesterday. And I even see that in a service-based business. It's just really important to set those expectations with your customers, whether your product or service, about what realistic timelines are. So love that point. We'll take some more questions in the chat. We're getting close to the end, so make sure you drop in your final questions. But this one I really wanted to talk about. We're seeing an increase in shipping costs for product-based businesses, which affects revenue. So how do you decide when you're going to make changes about what costs you lay on to your customers?
Yeah, I think that's a sensitive topic from a standpoint of it kind of really depends on your audience, depends on your product offering. So for Actively Black, being able to come out with a higher end collection that I know that price point, I can charge a higher price point for, that kind of helps offset some of those costs. With e-commerce, it's you have to really get to know your customer, right? So I know my customer is very price sensitive when it comes to shipping costs. They're not gonna like any increase from a shipping cost standpoint. So there's a couple things that you can try to do. If you can increase your average order value, so finding ways to, if somebody's coming to buy a hoodie and it's going to cost a certain amount to ship that hoodie, if you can find a way for them to add a shirt to that order, add a pair of socks, add something else that increases that average order value, then that cost to ship that package now is not, it doesn't cut into your profit margin as much. You know what I mean? Because you've been able to add, there's added value to increasing that average order value. So I try to do things, whether it's giving a discount on the shipping if they reach a certain threshold for what they've, if it's having a inexpensive item that I can use as a free giveaway if they reach a certain amount in their cart, finding any way that you can to encourage your customers to, even if they came just for that one hoodie or that one shirt, add something else to their cart. That helps offset some of that cost. But really those two levers that you're going to have to play with is either increasing the cost of the price of your product, or increasing the price on the shipping. But all the e-com statistics over the last 10 years have shown that shipping costs play the highest role in a consumer's decision whether they're going to purchase online or not. For whatever reason, even just the psychology of it, somebody could buy a $50 hoodie and the shipping is $10 and they'll be like, I'm not paying for that. But if the hoodie is, if you increase that price to $60 and say free shipping, they'll buy it. It costs them the same amount, but just the psychology of what I got to pay for shipping has such an impact on people's purchasing decisions. So you might just want to play with that. You know what I mean? Decrease your shipping costs, but pad in the price on your product and see what happens with that. So
yes, and in the chat folks are saying they're glad you talked about shipping. The costs vary throughout industries, so just really important topic. Thank you for sharing your transparency there. And I have to say, if you want to hear, because Lanny is very transparent about his process, if you want to hear more about this, you got to make sure you follow him and Actively Black on Instagram. I know Jackie's going to throw in the chat everyone's handles. You also want to make sure you're following Alodia Hair Care and Black Ambition Prize so that y'all can get the money next time this prize comes around. I know I will be signing up. I want some money as well. But we have just 2 more questions for you, Lanny, that I have. If any of you have questions, this is your last opportunity to put it in the chat. And I just want to hear your predictions for the future. Do you feel, I saw, actually you post an article the other day from Business Insider talking about this crisis, and it's something I'm hearing from product-based businesses all the time. How long do you see these shortages happening? Will you see a shift to using more US-based vendors? What are your predictions for the future?
Yeah, so everything I've read, all the data is pointing that this backup of the supply chain is likely going to take at least another full calendar year to get back to some form of normalcy. I mean, they've got ships out here in LA that are just lined up, at the port that can't even get in to offload a lot of this inventory. And it's affecting a lot of people, especially going into this holiday season. But everything is pointing to all of 2022 is going to be very similar. So some of the things that I'm doing, I'm loading up on inventory orders now that I'm ordering more than what I would normally do, because it's always a touchy thing when you're in an inventory heavy industry. Having too much inventory, they would normally say is a bad thing. But knowing that there's going to be further delays in being able to restock and reorder inventory, I'm intentionally over ordering now so that through the first quarter and the second quarter of 2022, I'm not going to be stressed out and worried about when this next shipment is coming so I can restock for my customers. So definitely get prepared. This isn't something that's going away anytime soon. Everything that I've seen has shown that it's going to take until 2023 until the supply chain globally kind of gets back to some form of normalcy.
Wow. Yes. And there was one other question that came up about this as a follow-up. Are there any other countries you're considering for production?
I've actively been looking for sure. For my particular product, there's some specifics in even how it's manufactured that those capabilities don't exist everywhere. So certain things that a person who's not in this business may not even recognize. So there's a certain specific stitch that Lululemon, Nike uses on some of their higher end products that requires it's called a 6-needle flat seam stitch, and it's a premium stitch. I actually pay extra for my apparel to be stitched in this way. There are only certain machines and certain people who know how to operate those machines to do that type of stitching. So it limits some of my options as far as changing out, where I'm getting stuff manufactured. But I have made contact with the local factory here in the States that I would still have to import the raw goods. So I'll still have to import the fabrics, all of the finishings, my zippers, all the things that I use to finish my product. And we're going to test them out to see if they can match the quality that I'm getting. And if so, that will definitely be part of this transition, is utilizing a local manufacturer that I can import the materials and just have the finished product made here in the States. But it remains to be seen if they can match the quality or not yet. So ongoing process.
Now, if that doesn't tell you Actively Black is premium, I don't know what will. We have special stitching that is only done in certain areas of the world. That is exciting. And we're really wishing you the best. There's a lot of thank yous in the chat. A lot of folks are really inspired by your success, by the success of Dr. Isfahan, by seeing the names of the other Black Ambition Prize winners. So I do want to just take the time to thank all of you for sharing your stories and being here today. We covered so much. Hopefully we'll have more opportunities to connect. And if we could just have a final word from you, Lanny, to close us out, to encourage the founders in this room, what would you tell us?
Yeah, I would just say, as a Black founder, there's obviously obstacles and challenges that are unique to being a Black founder, that other people don't necessarily have to experience. But use that as fuel. Use that as fuel. Don't let it discourage you. Use it as fuel. And that's going to push you through some of the hard moments that are sure to come. If they're not here yet, they're coming. And it's a constant it's a constant ever flowing journey of being at these mountaintops and being in the valleys, and how you navigate that is really going to help determine how successful you are. One of the things that I do on my Instagram, as you know, Angelina, I share losses. I try to share the losses that I've experienced over the course of, building Active Faith and even Actively Black. Because oftentimes, especially with social media, you're seeing the highlight reel of what, the accomplishments, the wins that everybody is experiencing. And sometimes people get discouraged because they're comparing their journey to somebody else's and they're only seeing those wins. But rest assured, there's so many losses and setbacks and rejections and no's that you're going to hear. Keep fighting, because it's only going to take that one yes that's going to take things to an entirely different level. I've been blessed and fortunate from Rich Dennis, who's the founder of Shea Moisture and now owns Essence, has agreed to take my entire first round. So I'm getting ready to close up my first round of investment and being able to acquire the resources that I need to take this to the next level. And all of the no's that I heard prior to that yes don't even matter no more. You know what I mean? And so keep fighting, keep the faith. If God gave you this dream, there's a reason he put it in your heart. So regardless of the setbacks, regardless of these challenges, use it as fuel, and it'll help you take you to the next level.
That is the most encouraging note to end on, Lanny. Thank you so much. We're all giving you just a virtual hand clap, sending you so much congratulations an amazing year from you, and we're excited to keep following the process. I want to thank you for your transparency and your vulnerability and for sharing with other Black founders. That's part of how we can also be of service to each other. Everyone go ahead, make sure you follow Alodia Skincare, Hair Care. Make sure you follow Actively Black and Lanny Smith, as well as Black Ambition Prize. I'm again so excited to be here and have had this time with you today, and we hope to see you next time. So thank you, everyone.